Hey Mark, how's it going?
Good, man. It's a cold day here today in Tennessee. That means it's about 58 degrees Fahrenheit, which to you Pennsylvanians is means that's shorts weather. But I'm feeling like I need a coat.
I'm jealous. So I wanted to catch up with you because obviously we've been friends a long time, and our company and Mr. Saltwater Tank have shared a path to some degree. And I think the best place to start is to kind of talk about you, how you're here in the industry, and the Mr. Saltwater Tank TV personality.
I guess I can blame my father is how it really started. I got my first saltwater tank in Christmas Day of 1989. So I came downstairs and there was a 75-gallon saltwater tank, let's say an all-in-one. It didn't have a sump on it, so it was undergravel filters, crushed coral, fake coral skeletons. For those of you that remember those days, I tell people how cool you were back then was how white your rock was, and your rock is coral skeletons. Literally, it's like, oh, that was probably a big acro, but now we're using it as rock in our tanks. But we would take the rock out once a month, we put it in bleach it to kill all the algae off, and then dechlorinate that piece for about 15 minutes because that was good enough. And then put it back in the tank, and then we couldn't figure out why about every 3 to 6 months our tanks just crashed and everything died. But that's how it was back in the day. And then life kind of progressed, went to college, got into some different hobbies, and then got back into the saltwater tank hobby, like 2007-ish or so, and had to relearn everything that I thought I knew because no one uses underground filters anymore. Certainly live rock was a new type of concept to me. Growing corals was fairly new as well because when I got started back in the late 80s, I mean, only the best of the best with all the best gear could grow Xenia. Like if you could grow that, like you were awesome. Let alone me, I just had fish-only type tanks. Could definitely never grow coral. I mean, I think the closest I got to a coral was a sea anemone, and when I bought it, the fish store said, I need a stronger light, so they sold me a black light to put over the tank, and of course, sea anemones never made it either, so we got back into the hobby, and then heard about this thing called YouTube and blogging, had a camera, had access to, and knew how to edit because I had a background in reality television. Liked being on camera. I always tell people if I could sing, then I would be the frontman on a band, but I can't sing, so I'll save you that pain, even though we're in Nashville where there's plenty of non-talented people making a good living in country music. So I started making videos one day, and literally I just put one out. Maybe that was February of 2010. I put out the first video, and I was like, put out a video, throw it up there on YouTube, started my channel, didn't do anything for about a month and a half, and then made another video, and then about another month later, kind of messed around with it and made another video. And then finally, a mentor that I had at the time was like, are you going to do this thing or not? I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to do this thing? I'm making videos. And she was like, no. Are you seriously going to go after this as a way to make a living for yourself or not? And I was like, well, yeah. She's like, okay, shut down your other business and call all your clients, tell them you're not doing that kind of work anymore, which was video marketing, by the way, and go head first into Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. I guess my son then was 5 months old and had a mortgage, had things to pay for. That was a slightly frightening prospect, but I made it work through various methods. I actually used group buys in our local fish club to fund my mortgage and basically groceries for a while. I would set up this big group buy, and sometimes at like $1,000 to $2,000 at a time, and I would take everyone's money. I would charge the coral, take the cash, and go pay the mortgage. I don't necessarily recommend that route, but it did work, and it got me started and got the business going. Ran into Ecotech Marine. I remember the day I called Pat and talked to him, day one, and getting things started. That was pre-Radion, for those of you who are wondering. I think that was a good year or two before the Radion came out, back in the day of Ecotech. I think you guys had just gotten into the EcoSmarts as well, so the white ones nonetheless. But so then it grew from there, really. I mean, it was more videos turned into books turned into talks turned into consulting. And then one day someone said, I want you to build me a fish tank. I said, well, I don't really do that, man. I mean, I didn't say it to him, but I was like, I'm about passive income, scaling things. Building a tank is very much active, time for dollar type trade. You got to do that. And I was like, that's not what I do. And he said, I want you to build me a tank. And I said, that's not what I do. And he said, I want you to build me a tank. At that time, the light went off. I'm like, why don't you just throw a price at the guy? And I was like, okay, what do you want to build? Threw him a ballpark price. He's like, sounds good. Come out here next week. And I was like, he was in other side of the country. I was like, okay. So I booked a last minute plane ticket, flew out to see this guy. And that was the first tank that I ever built. And it all went from there. Now that's the full-time gig. I still do Mr. Saltwater Tank shows, trying to do one a month as a bare minimum. But mainly now it's just people coming to me wanting projects. Last week, Jay and I couldn't talk because I was out on a project. And then next week I travel for 2 projects. And the week after that I travel again. So it's a lot of builds, but I enjoy the video part of it. I enjoy talking to people. Certainly enjoy getting to meet people face to face. And now it's, I mean, the last time I was walking down a jet bridge to get on a plane, I'm like, someone is paying me to fly out here and set up a saltwater tank. That's crazy. So it's come a long way. It's also grown into group trips. I mean, I was just in Australia. Actually, I led a group trip to Fiji, was in Australia giving a talk. Same kind of thought went through my head. I'm like, 7 years ago, I just picked up a camera. It's like, let's just start talking about fishing coral and saltwater tanks. And now it's led to this.
Wow. That's very impressive. So this journey is almost 30 years old at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's some gaps in there, but true. I mean, the first tank was almost 30 years ago, yeah.
And now you're effectively living the dream from a reef hobbyist standpoint. Your hobby pays your bills. You're able to share it with other people, and you're still able to make videos and progress along that route as well.
I don't make as many videos as I want. I enjoy that part of it arguably the most. But yeah, I mean, it definitely has taken the hobby into a career. And some people people ask me like, do you hate the hobby or do you dislike the hobby now that you are working in it every day? I'm like, no. Like I, per se, have more fun with it because I'm getting to teach people and helping them not make the mistakes that I did when I got started so they can get to this and what you have in your background, Jay, faster. So they have success and it's a great experience. I mean, how can you get fed up with looking at this every day? There's certainly days when you're like, oh, I don't want to have to do that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I get to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that satisfaction from having a mature reef tank, from making that jump from the beginner to the intermediate level where you actually have that thriving ecosystem, that you've created is just such a rewarding experience for sure.
Definitely. And it's, as you know, I mean, it's a road. A lot of times people want the instant. And I'm like, this is what's behind me now is, 2 years old now? There's certainly been up and downs along the way. And, I tell people, a lot of clients I found will look at a picture of a tank and they're like, I want that. Like, literally, you're looking at a millisecond of time of that tank's life, and you're capturing what the owner wants you to see. Everything you don't see behind the scenes, the ups and downs, coral deaths, fish deaths, whatever, something falling over and getting stung by another coral, like, you don't see that. And you miss all the ups and downs along the way. And to me, that makes, that's part of it. The tank is a living thing. Each one of these has a personality, much like different children, as you well know. And figuring it out, learning how to work with it, and knowing that any given moment it could throw a curveball at you, and then how are you going to react?
And that's it too, isn't it? It's not having the beautiful tank is part of that ownership experience, but the other part is the journey getting there, in terms of, as you say, riding the ups and downs and learning as you go and getting to know the husbandry, and being able, I think we talk about this every once in a while, but it's once you reach that point where you walk up to your tank and you look at it and if something's off or if something's really happy, that's the moment where you really become a reef hobbyist, or I would say an intermediate level reef hobbyist, where you can see that and you might not necessarily know what to do about it, but that everything's either very happy or something is not happy, and that means that something's off in the tank.
Yeah, exactly. There's that moment when you feel like you're one with your tank, so to speak. And good or bad, you're like, something is off. You can just feel it, and it's a fun place to be, and it's a journey to get there, which I think is fun as well.
Very cool. So now that you do all of these installations and you do these installations all over the world, I think you were just in Saudi Arabia, or was it
I,
Dubai?
yeah, I was in both, giving a talk in
Oh,
Dubai, went over to Saudi to talk to a potential client. So yeah, it's literally worldwide now.
so how many of these medium, small, medium, large installations have you done for people?
Well, I have to define small, medium, and large because, as I tell people too, 6 months after you get your tank, probably less. Whatever tank size you get, it's going to look small. Like you put in an 8-foot tank, that's what's here behind me. Without fail, 3 months later, I was like, maybe I should have gone bigger because it just seems kind of small, even though it's 450 gallons. So, small I would categorize as 180 gallons or less. Medium, I'm going to take up to, let's say 375-ish type gallons, maybe 300 gallons. And then large per se is anything above that. So the last small tank I did was a couple years ago, which was a 180, which was in New York City, which was a fun project because I had to sneak that tank into the building. They told the owner that he could have an aquarium, and that was the last question he asked. He didn't ask about size or anything about that. He was a young guy. He's like, I don't want to stir up any trouble, so we have to get this tank in, this 180-gallon, 6-foot-long tank, in right in front of security because the freight elevator was literally 5 feet away from the security desk. Get it in without them asking any questions. And I'm like, well, that's a unique request, but we got it done. It worked out well because even though I had a steel stand, he had wood work around it. So we brought the stand in, and that just looked like cabinetry. No one knew any different there. Got that in the elevator, and we couldn't just roll it into the elevator. You had to kind of go in like this and set it on its end to fit in the elevator. So we did that, and then we had to do that with the tank while the tank was covered, and no one could see what it was and not break it and literally kind of suspend it because you couldn't rest it on its short end like this. But we got it done. So that was the last per se small tank that I've done.
Awesome. And the largest tank you've done?
So I have an 850-gallon project that's in the works. So that will be the big boy at the moment.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I think that's great. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to check in with you again in the not too distant future. I have lots to ask and talk to you about. So, assuming you're not out doing tank installs and you haven't moved on to a career in country music, then then I think we can definitely follow this up. But thank you so much for letting us know what you're up to and what's going on, and we'll check in with you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And worst comes to worst, we have these cool things called smartphones we didn't have in the late 80s either, that we can always catch up on. And, if we have to do it this way, then we'll get it done.
Very cool. All right. Thank you very much, Mark. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, man.